So yeah, thanks for joining everyone. This is going to be a Hyperliquid specific panel. We'll keep it fairly high level. We've already got 30 minutes. A quick round of introductions. So I'm Adam from LHYPE. Do you want to give a quick round?
Hi, my name's Andy Hyfi for Hypurrfi, ending on Hyperliquid.
I'm Alex. I work at Nucleus. We're part of the Looping Collective. Been working with staking rewards very closely on all those tokens.
Yeah, I'm Mirko, also founder of Staking Rewards and also the Looping Collective and LHYPE.
Great, yeah. So let's kick things off and just talk a bit about Hypurrfi. So Hypurrfi only went live a few months back, and already the TVL in DeFi on Hypurrfi has surpassed, other big kind of DeFi native chains like Avalanche and even some other Ethereum layer 2s. So that growth's quite unprecedented. Do you want to just say a few words or give a few thoughts around that growth and your thoughts on it and how you think it's been so rapid?
Yeah, it's clearly the lead that the Hyperliquid team took as they built their product with users in mind first. They built such a voracious community of people who actually wanted to use the product, that community wanted to keep using the product. And I like to say people want to use their money to make more money. And in this case, their assets that they don't want to get rid of is hype. And so people are thinking, how do we use our hype to make more money without losing my hype? And it just leads to this DeFi explosion where people can do more, outsized gains by using the asset that they already love. And so we've seen that tremendous activity from a passionate, voracious user base that's already passionate because of Hyperliquid Core and the team behind there. That has now overflowed into DeFi. What I will say, though, is my question, sorry, now I'm leading the panel, does that extend outside of the hype, hardcores, outside of people ending every tweet Hyperliquid? Can we reach Bitcoiners and family offices and other people to get them to come in? Because there's still a barrier to entry there. But I really think that's kind of the core of why we've seen that growth is people are excited about building and using their assets in a fair new place. Yeah,
I think right now there's a constant conversation about a battle for central limit order books. But when Hyperliquid started to become really popular, there's GMX, Gains Network. It was actually a battle for on-chain perps dexes. Hyperliquid came, took that. People ran with it. People already understood that perps dexes were the largest generators of revenue. And I think with the L2 narrative that was going around last year, the natural extension of that revenue driver to a chain was what really unlocked the imagination of many builders. And I think part of the reason for a lot of the success is that we've just seen some of the most talented and genuine builders come into the ecosystem wanting to build cool products for users. And it gives me the feeling that this is what actual DeFi users have been waiting for in a way. And I do believe that it'll bring more people on as more people get exposed to what Hyperliquid is. I think there's only a little bit over 4,000 people who are actually using Hypurrfi right now, so there's still a lot of room to grow.
Yeah. Anything to add there, Mirko?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Hyperliquid already is the winner on the on-chain perps market. I think also the spot will be a huge unlock, basically, for new users. So personally, I would be looking very forward that more spot markets go live on Hyperliquid, because I think this is where a lot of net new users will join Hyperliquid, and I think they're going in that direction, and it will come. That basically all the tokens will list on Hyperliquid first, and they don't need to even list on or give half of their token supply to Binance and get basically raped by these sexes, so to say. And Hyperliquid just has a huge opportunity there to capture that market, and this is why Binance has so many users, and all of these exchanges have so many users, because they just have a great spot product as well.
Yeah, makes
sense.
Can I
piggyback? Do you want to lead, or because I'll run away with this if you let me?
No, you can say something else. But
so the exchange is the distribution channel. That's the product that people in crypto want to do more than anything else, is they want to trade. And so by having that as the flywheel for revenue, it's this constant attraction of new bodies. But Alex is onto something too. When we first started building Hypurrfi, it was last year. It was its own chain. It had a different name. We raised for it. It was like a revenue-generating chain that pays its revenue out to incentives in novel ways. And our idea, I won't go into it too much, was to use LSTs and DeFi to attract people to come and have this revenue flywheel. Well, that sounds a lot like Blast, and that sounds a lot like Barachain, and that sounds a lot like a bunch of these other chains who use DeFi to start this flywheel. Hyperliquid destroys this by doing it with perps. The most profitable, obvious, now looking back, obvious play. It's not obvious because it's hard to do a perp stacks right, but that's the revenue flywheel. Oh, well, scrap this chain. We'll come back to that if we need to in the future. Let's build the lending market there instead, because here's the revenue flywheel. And because of that, now the LSTs, now the DeFi users, now this constant influx of new users from who knows where next, right? XRP and who knows, like ADA, if they come on board, if there's spot for that, this constant.
Yeah, let me just reel it back a bit here, because you've actually jumped straight into my next question, which was going to be, Hyper-EVM has lending markets, liquid staking tokens, DEXs. How is it different? I think you've kind of just answered that there. I don't know if you've got anything to add there, Alex or Mirko?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say it has hype, right? All this revenue that we've been talking about, there's like a huge impetus to just use real cold hard dollars to buy back hype, right? And we do that as well in the Looping Collective. We buy back Loop, and I think a lot of these flywheels are what ultimately are going to make a lot of protocols successful in the long run, which is direct alignment with the token, with the revenue models, and then feeding that back into their own internal ecosystem. And then this is where you get that opportunity to really take off. I feel from taking a simple model that kind of streams revenues back to the people who actually apply themselves to it, and then expanding that onto their own kind of ideas. So I do believe that it's a flywheel that's taking off.
Yeah, we weren't supposed to say, in crypto, that we're making money as projects. There was a long time you just weren't supposed to talk about revenue unless you were in private meetings with investors, and then you had an ARR model and all this stuff. It was just quiet. And Hyperliquid has changed that game. It's no, they're making money. Look, there it is on chain. And it turns out making money is good for a business. Oh, no shit. But that has changed the game in DeFi too, because now we can start to say, and our users want to know too, is well, are you just going to bankrupt us and yourselves with a token? Or no, we have a business model. Here's why we're making the decisions we're making, and here's how we think they'll play out. And that the framing changes the user in DeFi and what they're after, because they're coming from this awesome place already, Hyperliquid. And I'm sure for you guys too, right? You guys make money. You should. You're a business, right?
Yeah, I think I can only second that, and I also think it's basically everyone can align on the hype token somehow, because probably this has something to do with the tokenomics, where they give away just a huge amount to the actual community, so everyone feels like a real owner, and they don't have an issue to aligning with hype itself as a token. And I mean, a lot of other ecosystems had that issue, right? No one aligns with ETH as a token, or Atom has the big issues on Cosmos Hub and so on. And on Hyperliquid, the projects building on Hyper-EVM, they're all using hype, and they're all integrating hype natively, even into buybacks and into the reward system and so on. And I think that's a big unlock, having a common denominator, one standard everyone can agree upon.
Yeah, I was going to speak a bit around the law of Hyperliquid. So obviously we've mentioned how many DeFi users there are currently, a lot of retail. But I think I'm just going to move into what's the next leg up for Hyperliquid? Then you touched on it, Andy. How are the institutions going to get onboarded to this, and is it coming? Speak about that, because Hyperliquid provides real yield opportunities that go beyond just this kind of points farming culture that you see around a lot, and institutions look for real yield. So yeah, I mean, maybe give a brief discussion around the real yield opportunities on Hyperliquid and Hyper-EVM currently.
I'll let you guys start. I'll go first every time.
I think so. I guess some context. If you look in like the governance forums of many incumbent like blue chip DeFi protocols, they're kind of like suffering right now because there's like a whole community of people who have used the product and held the token for so long, but there's no way to turn on like a fee switch for it legally speaking right now. And so like these are the likes of like A16Z, Wintermute. Like these are the big players that we're familiar with in the game. Who have their money parked in like governance tokens that are just dwindling away without like any real fee capture that people can like lock onto. Whereas I feel like the barriers to that are a lot lower on Hyperliquid in and of itself, as well as like the implications that come along with them compared to like the traditional DAO. So, I mean, with Looping Collective, at least, we do already take like fees on all of our products. I know a lot of the lending protocols are already implementing fees, and there's no real like hurdle to getting to that point. So I think like at the end of the day, it's really just about educating like institutions, helping them understand like what the potential is for a chain like Hyperliquid, and then also communicating with them like that there is kind of like this dual like type of relationship between the chain and the order book as well. Not only do you need people to deposit into the protocols on the EVM, but those protocols also need market makers for the spot order book to make it deeper and more capital efficient. So I think education is a really big part right now to bring in the institutions.
Yeah, it makes sense. I was just going to add to that. I think also custodians, bringing on all the major custodians into Hyperliquid, which I think is going to happen pretty soon and is happening now, is going to be also another leg up for institutional adoption. Any other thoughts around this, or I could move on?
Okay.
Yeah, we got plenty of questions to go through here. But.
All right. On Kitten, I'm going to tell you practically. So theoretically, yes. On Kitten Swap right now, you can LP Hype and USDT 0. It is earning 203% APR. That is not including points. The reason it is doing that is there is mass demand for both Hype and USDT 0. And it's like you put money in there and then a day later, it's a lot more money. Like it's crazy. You just watch it tick. Now, you have to deal with impermanent loss and it's DeFi and smart contracts. So all of the same things that have always prevented institutions from coming to DeFi are still preventing them from coming to DeFi. But those are real numbers. Like these are not juiced. They come from the smart contracts. It's awesome if you're a degen like myself. There's 8 LP yield. You can go and make money LPing right now. There's not enough liquidity on the EVM right now, so anybody can print. There's staking. You can just make money staking or doing liquid staking and then looping. There's lending, which is what we do. So you can come and loan your Hype and people borrow it and they pay for it. Or USDT, like the rates are really good on lending stablecoins and Bitcoin as well. The fourth one is the stuff that doesn't exist yet. But those are like the 3 ways to make money on Hyperliquid right now. Unless you're like just selling memes and NFTs and stuff, that's possible too. But the fourth one is the stuff that doesn't exist yet. Options or wrapped versions of a funding rate trade or some bucketed index strategy on tokenized equities over here and tokenized gold over here, shorting gold, I don't know, whatever you want to do. Those can be tokenized and then used in DeFi. I suspect that if you're starting to think that 6 months to 6 years in the future, however long it takes, mixing those up with like looped and wrapped, sort of products, that's where we are going to really get more institutional interest because the institutions, they need to come in and know they're getting an 8% rate on their funds on $1 million. If they bring you $10 million, they want 10%, right? And that does not exist in DeFi yet because it's so volatile and it's variable. So I do think we are in a chicken and egg problem a little bit is we need more liquidity to be able to generate more opportunities. And the more we like eke along and create a new opportunity, it takes a little while for that liquidity to come in. Tokenized gold, for example, has been on chain for a couple of weeks and it's just suffering from really low liquidity. Like there's just not millions and millions and billions coming in gold. It's a slow trickle.
What you just mentioned, actually, like the wrapped HLP is basically the first version of exactly that. It's like it's a tokenized kind of market making trade or like strategy on Hyperliquid, and that's like consistently, like over the last year, earning like 17% over the entire year on average APY, which is insane at like a scale of 400 million US dollars, basically. So like this is something that's like sustainable yield at scale. This was like, I mean, there was a reason why, for example, UST grew so fast, because they had like this 20% claim, and they could somehow, it didn't end well basically, but they paid out like 20% at scale. And I think once we make these products like wrapped HLP and then looped HLP, and so when we make them accessible to many more users, like this can be a huge unlock. Yeah.
So UST paid out their rate by backing it with their own token that they made out of thin air, and that's like an unsustainable Ponzi, right? And it didn't work, obviously. The HLP it pays out because of revenue of users on the protocol on Hyperliquid who get liquidated. They pay out to the HLP, and are people likely to get liquidated? Yeah, they're shit perps traders. I'm one of them. Right, I'm paying myself to get liquidated, and then I'm in the HLP. So, like, to go back to the first question, that's why this changes the game. Is there consistently are customers willing to pay, and that generates an economy that actually really flows.
Yeah, I mean, can I just get a quick read of the room? Who has Hype in here? Does anyone hold Hype? And have you deployed your Hype on the Hypurrfi VM yet? Okay, yeah, all right. Yeah, that's interesting.
I think that's something else to notice too. I think like institutions as well are scared of the risks associated. So building these tokenized versions of this stuff, like all three of us do, is like really important to also onboarding them and then continuing to do that with other composable strategies. It's what they're looking for a lot of the times.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I'd actually like to talk a bit now about a feature coming very soon called precompiles, which connects Hypercore, the L1, with Hypurrfi VM in like a quite a fluid, seamless way. Does someone want to give a quick 101, like maybe you, Alex, around what that is, and maybe just kind of outline some of the opportunities there?
I mean, so I think there's been a lot of talk around precompiles. Just very simply what it means, at least from my understanding, is that it's like a more direct way to communicate with Hypercore from Hypurrfi VM and kind of like merge the state of the two different blockchains without needing to basically like bridge funds and do things in a more centralized manner. This includes like direct deposits into HLP from the Hypurrfi VM or swapping like spot tokens seamlessly between either the spot order book or maybe an AMM, for example.
Well, I have a hot take.
Go for it.
Always with a hot take, Andy.
I don't think the precompiles are going to be as big of a deal to most of DeFi as people think they are.
Yeah.
There's still some limitations to them on who holds what asset when. That won't make it as seamless as we would like to imagine. It will matter for things like Kinetic and some other like really interesting decentralized staking protocols and the way those are used, or like how perps positions can be tokenized and referenced on the EVM. But I think that'll be pretty esoteric use cases compared to stuff like HIP3, which is going to be like money machine.
Yep.
Hot take.
Yeah, no, that makes it. I mean, we launched wrapped HLP already ahead of precompiles going live. And we plan to migrate to precompiles when they are live. But we've already seen a lot of demand there. We launched on Friday with Hyperlend, and we're already at above 6 million TVL, 5 million in 24 hours. So there's definitely demand there, and there's a lot of questions that can be asked around. How important is? Do people care about decentralization? I think it is important in the long run, obviously, but people need to work towards that. I think. Yeah, we can. I don't know what we're like on timing, by the way. Do you guys know how long we've been sat here? I tell you what. We can probably wrap it up fairly soon. I'm going to ask one last question. Like, what is the bull case for Hyperliquid? And like, or more so, like, say, like in a year's time, where do you think the DeFi kind of ecosystem will be? Like, do you think it's just going to keep growing exponentially? Like, where will the next big unlock happen? Like, what do you think is needed to kind of really scale, scale this further beyond where it's at?
Right. I think there are different levels of adoption for Hyperliquid. One is like the perp market. This is already the on-chain perp market. Hyperliquid already basically won that. Next up, I think, is the on-chain spot market, which is kind of a new thing because there are not many on-chain spot markets really yet. But I think Hyperliquid is perfectly positioned to do that. And then like the next two levels will then be basically unlocking Hyperliquid becoming like the world's trading infrastructure and becoming a backend for like a Binance and a Coinbase and so on, and like probably starting with smaller exchanges that can then tap into like the overall liquidity of Hyperliquid. They're building a front end for it. They have these builder codes. So it's like, again, like an open standard everyone can align on, and has these like added benefits that just help people to build more specific front ends with like specific geographies and regulations and so on. So they can basically outsource all of these regulation and geography issues like to other companies, and Hyperliquid can then become like the world's trading infrastructure. So I think that's the bull case, basically, that like Hyperliquid becomes a backend for pretty much every exchange in the world, on-chain and off-chain and on-chain.
Cool. Anything to add there, guys? Yeah.
I think that hit a lot of like the important stuff. I think on top of that, like seeing like ETFs or like tokenized equities come like first be traded on the spot order book and then also be supported on the EVM is going to be huge.
Andy, talk to me.
Okay, the bear case.
Yeah. Start with the bear case, actually. That makes it more interesting.
The bear case is it's a good perp DEX that takes a lot of market share. It's already on its way. Like, there's no stopping that train. But spot assets and DeFi only find a bespoke home among hype holders. And it becomes a really good flywheel for those of us building LSTs and lending and stuff like that. But it plateaus, and it's kind of like homegrown. So, and I think you see that a lot in places like Sui is a great example. Great chain, great teams building there, but like once you're in, and they're not dragging a lot of new people in. It's kind of plateauing out, and then there's a major Oracle hack, and so people leave, and then there's this sort of thing. That's the bear case, and I would not be building here if I thought that was going to happen. The unlock that I think we're really waiting for is we've seen the hype natives deploy, right? They're in the WHLP immediately. They're in the markets immediately. Our TVL went crazy, and so did other lending protocols and DEXs because it happened really fast because there's a subset of people who were ready. But now it's plateaued. It has plateaued, and we're seeing that trickle in, but it's not the same like rocket ship the past couple of weeks. Now, of course, we've had a war, so maybe that's part of it too, but that it was the first 3 months. Like it's a different ballgame. And so that next unlocked is new liquidity. And so if that's a family office, and all of a sudden they've got to do DD on how do they get on chain, and how does their security prove that, and what's happening, who is everybody, like do a lot there. But take a look at the other assets, like just in the top 20 market cap of crypto. XRP is a great example. Do we want XRP on spot, on core? And do we want XRP? Well, we do, yeah, of course. Like we're Hyperliquid, we want that liquidity to come in. Do XRP holders want to bring their XRP to Hyperliquid to trade it and use it in DeFi? We don't know. That's the open question that I don't think we know yet if it's compelling enough of an offering for them to borrow against their XRP and get stables and then come and deposit it in these 200% APR pools. I think if they do, and if a few of those assets do, then and their communities do, then it's another rocket ship, and it'll happen every couple of months where there'll just be like this mass infusion of $500 million, bang, bang, bang. And that really gets the ball rolling on these other spot assets. Because once you're in, then you're like, oh, okay, what's the HLP? Okay, cool. And then you can sort of start to diversify into places that are more stable. Or
yeah, I mean, this is very exciting because basically the example you mentioned was XRP. Like, Hyperliquid can not only be like a great exchange for XRP, but also become like the kind of the EVM layer for XRP, or like the EVM layer for any other token. And then it creates like a full ecosystem with like full-fledged lending markets and looping solutions and whatever, like for all of these assets basically that don't have liquidity on their own chain, but they're going to have liquidity on Hyperliquid because it's just a very organic growth, and there are a lot of users from all of these chains coming together then. So
a lot of their distribution plan and like growth plans on a lot of these tokens is you get listed on an exchange, people trade your token, and then people learn about you and learn more. Well, now we can do that permissionlessly and for way cheaper than a lot of these centralized exchanges. So that's the beginning of this ramp up to the House of All Finance. I see that.
Yeah, I think we're going to end it there. Please come and talk to all of us afterwards. Like all these guys are quite deep in Hyperliquid, and happy to chat. Thank you very much. Moving into the next panel now. So thank you. Round of applause to these guys.